Good morning, everybody. So, really glad that so many of you are here. Wednesday, first session after the social event yesterday. So for me, was very hard. So I really appreciate that. Okay, my talk is about application integration, and that means having a marketing website based on AEM and integrating some applications into this marketing website. Okay, first, okay. First about me. So the first 10 years of my career I spent in really large-scale projects, and since 2010 I'm a freelancer, and since 2011 I'm doing CQ and AEM. So, but back to application integration, I want to start with two questions. So the first is, what is an application, of course? I just give you some examples. So it could be transaction tools, like this flight booking application. Can be other transaction tools, like making a reservation, callback. This is an online banking application, so transferring some money. That's transaction tools. It can be interactive content, like this game. Can be a product demo, an interactive product demo, something like that. Or this map, or some kind of interactive content. We have a lot of data query and search tools, like this agency finder. We probably all had a store finder or something integrated on our websites. We have visualization tools, like this chart analysis, or in this case, product 3D viewer. So that's all not natural AEM components. We have usability tools, like this wish list. This is a travel website. You can mark some hotels and go back to them later. So it's a favorite list. We have other collaboration social tools like chats or something. A lot of these configuration and planning tools. So this is a car configurator where you can configure complex products. Or this is a kitchen planner where you can arrange the furniture to plan the kitchen you want to build. Very often we have these calculators. This is for a financial product. You enter some data, and it gives you some results. So these are all applications, may have some back-end functionality or whatever, but it makes sense to develop them outside of AEM, because there's an agency, we can do this easily, or you have special tools. So you want to integrate that. The second question is why it is complicated. So why we have a talk about that. The first thing what makes it complicated are abnormal situations. So people usually start with a smooth running production environment in mind. They say, oh, we do it that way and it will work fine. What happens if it doesn't work? So we have a cluster of publishers for reasons. We have failed deployments. Sometimes things are slow and we have to investigate that. And or sometimes we have network issues or it's completely down, whatever. So these things happen in application integration scenarios as well. And actually, with integration, things getting more complex and we're getting less functionality out of the box. Unstated requirements. So take this air flight example. So we all have unstated requirements. So we want to have a pilot with proper training, the plane should have proper maintenance, and if you get aboard, we want to be welcomed, or we expect to be welcomed. And all these things are not part of the ticket sales process, so we take it for granted. And the same happens in your project, where people have expectations they will never state. And actually often forgotten is thing number one, what we experience is the developer experience. So developers will not start with a full-blown production environment, so they don't have to. And so maybe we have to build some features just to enable developers to do their work with their normal tools what they expect to. That means AEM developers and application developers. Or we have all this cross-cutting stuff, often forgotten. So search engine optimization, web analytics. So that's maybe not that easy with integration. Or all the operation stuff. So the operations guy expected it's not worse than before. So system stability, performance, we don't want to have a degrade in that. Or the deployments should be as fast and smooth as it was before you had your application integrated. And of course, failure analysis. Yeah? So we all have the situation where we get an email, yesterday XYZ was not working, and the expectation is that we go look into some log files and then find out what was happening, fixing it so it never happen again. With application integration, so my experience in many projects was that there's just a finger pointing, and by the end of the day, there was no result, and so hopefully it happens again, so then we can find out more. So no clue what happened. And we have these steady scope increases. So if you tell your customers how complicated things may be, they say, always go for quick and dirty. And then after a while, they find out what dirty means. So then you have these additional requirements coming up. Yeah, you need more integration into the content website or in the content page. You need more web analytics. You need more responsiveness and more feature, more seamless look and feel, and all that stuff comes around and around and around. So it's definitely doable, but it's not that easy as it might look first. So therefore, it's complicated. So today, my talk is about integration patterns. So I have 5 integration patterns. I used all of them in at least one of my projects. And so they're building up on each other, so discussing some pros and cons. And for the latest one, I have some source code I tried to extract out of my last 2 projects. And maybe we can share this a little bit. And we can develop on this stuff together. First pattern, side by side. Side by side just meaning you have 2 applications and they're pretending to be a single website. Happens often for you have a marketing website and a web shop, or these employee stuff, yeah, open positions where you can apply for a job. And you have more or less 2 options. Either you use multiple subdomains, or you have a path-based routing. So I will only show you a small demo about Thomas Cook, the travel website. You see, this is served by www.thomascook.de. So, and if you switch, then you're still there. But if you go to flight, you see it immediately jumps to flugthomascook.de, and the URL path is completely different. So the flight search is a complete different application. So what they have done more or less is having the same menu, having the same look and feel, and make it do a little bit. If you go to the booking process, also the booking journey, so if you really want to book it, you also jump to a completely different subdomain. So both approaches have some advantages and disadvantages. If you are in the way to choose it, you probably you find out what's best for you. So if you can stay in the same domain, you have a little less to adjust to existing applications, but they are more separated if you have multiple subdomains. But then, of course, all this integration stuff you have to do on all sides, that you have to take care that this works multi-domain. So just vendor evaluation, yeah, it's a very special use case. Actually, to make it seamless, what you will never get, it's always visible that it's 2 different applications. but it takes more and more effort to make it more and more seamless. The only real great thing about that is operations. So it's completely independent to operate these both applications, and actually everybody, and I mean really everybody, will understand that in case of an issue, the issue is either in the web shop or in the CMS. So with everybody, I mean end users, first level support, or some admin guys in the data center, so people that not really do a lot with the application. So take as example the admin guys in the data center. What they do if there's an issue or an incident? They restart something. Yeah? Have you turned it off and on again? So in the side-by-side scenario, most likely they will not restart the wrong system. Okay, next pattern. Actually, it's a group of patterns. All the remaining patterns are about single-page applications. What it means, I will show soon. But the first one, I call that IFrame, or IFrame. What it means is you're having a content page delivered by IAM, and this page contains an iframe, and the application is completely independent, delivers its HTML, JavaScript, whatever, and all the static resources, all the dynamic endpoints like REST APIs, comes via the iframe. Fairly simple approach. All the interface, more or less, is in the URL of the iframe. So all the context, so what is, which country it is, which language it is, maybe this type of calculator is used for different types of products. So you say, okay, this is a saving plan, or saving plan XYZ. All this belongs into the URL. So the interface between the content website or the content page and the application is just the URL you have in the iframe. Giving you a real example, this is 123formbuilder.com. So that's really what it tells. You can build forms with that, and the data is aggregated, and the business can do some stuff. You have here the URL. What I want to highlight is actually here you have to specify, in this case, for 123formbuilder, the height of this iframe. So it is not very responsive. So actually, in reality, the author who created the registration form or whatever really takes a look how long this is, and he tries to enter some number. If it's okay, if it needs more or less, he just enters a new number until it fits somehow. And if it's on a mobile phone, maybe it doesn't fit anymore. So evaluation, yeah, it's really simple to implement. Yeah, you have the total independence of development. You can use for the application any tool you want. Yeah? Even if you would use Microsoft Excel, save as HTML, you could integrate it that way. Yeah? And think of other, maybe not Excel, but you have some animation tools where you can click nice product demos, some interactivity, yeah, where you see the product you sell, clicking a button, and then something happens. These kinds of stuff you cannot control. So this will work with the iframe, actually. A drawback of this is it's not really integrated, so it's not responsive. It cannot interact with the content page itself, really, and it's for operations, it's just a front-end integration. So meaning everything regarding the integration happens in the browser. So you don't recognize if anything fails. So and once we had the situation where the application was only reachable inside the company's intranet. So everybody working on the CMS system has seen a nice application inside the content page. Everybody outside has seen just a black box of nothing. And we have recognized that, but you not naturally recognize that. And maybe edge computing, something doesn't work in the US, but in Europe is fine. So front-end integrating, you don't see much. Okay, next pattern, to overcome this a little bit, it's bootloader. Giving you an example, Google Maps. Everybody probably knows that. What it means, you're giving, this part you integrate on your content website. So the application developers give some documentation and say, you have to copy this HTML snippet on your page. So it contains probably some div also, some place in the DOM where the application can render into. You have, typically, you're loading a script that the application can start up, and then you have some pieces that give a context. In this case, it's a script, which says where the center of the map is in the zoom level, but it can be also HTML attributes at this div. So it's just that the application can do something to start off. So, and it looks from technology a little bit almost the same as the IFrame, except that the content page contains the bootloader, and the application has not HTML snippet anymore, which is loaded in IFrame. Instead, it delivers a JavaScript file. So, and the story behind this, hopefully most of the time the bootloader stays stable, so that the application can develop and release independently, so the API remains very stable, which is for business applications. So very often we have applications that are exclusively built for our website. Like this car configurator, it's not built for other websites. It's not the case always, so the bootloader code changes also from times to times. Getting the summary, yeah, bootloader definitely allows much better integration into the content page as the IFrame. So if the application needs more space or less space, it's not a problem anymore. It can be responsive, or can do some interaction, so opening a layer or adding a footnote to the footer of the page. So this all is now doable. Development becomes a little bit more difficult because you need JavaScript rendering. Otherwise, it doesn't work, and also it limits you in the choice of technology. Again, something which spits out some HTML will not work. You definitely need something that is completely based on JavaScript rendering. Fallback, of course, if it's still front-end integration, so if anything fails, again, you will have a black box of nothing. So, and therefore, the remaining patterns, they will try to tackle this one, so that the app is part of the content page. And one approach is the application just provides a backend Ajax API. So you're having the HTML, all the static resources, JavaScript, CSS, is all implemented by AEM developers inside AEM, and the application only provides some dynamic endpoints. So real-life example is we had a CRM system which had no front end anyway, and there was a registration form for a B2B event. So the CRM system sent out an email and saying, oh, please welcome to our roadshow, and would you like to register? And the integration in the front end is perfect. So the AEM developers know everything about their content page, so they can do a lot of things that probably nobody else can do. But the problem was that you have to synchronize two teams, and especially if the teams are sitting not next to each other, everything takes ages. So as an example, especially if it's getting smaller, you have this registration form for this roadshow event, and you want to add some field. Yeah? Here we all enter the t-shirt size because you got a t-shirt from the adaptTo. So these things you would expect to take less than a day. You have an existing application registration form and you're adding a field. It should take less than a day. Reality is, in this approach, it takes easily 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah? First you have to arrange a meeting between both teams. It takes 2 days until they sit together to define the new API. Then they have to implement something. One of the both teams, they don't have time to do it. Then the front end cannot be implemented until the back end is there. You cannot test it because the AEM guy has no CRM system on his laptop, and the CRM guys have no AEM on their laptop. So the first time they integrate is on the TEF system, as in the test system. And you have to wait until the CRM system has a release before you can release the AEM, and all has dependencies and adding up time. So this actually, it really takes ages. So therefore, summary, it's the best front-end integration you can ever have, definitely. But the real drawback is it's absolutely not independent. Both development teams has to be synchronized all the time. And you need AEM skills and AEM technology for the front-end implementation, which is also not something we like in application integration, because the benefit is that we can allow everybody, some web agency or something, or even if you use the MSM, you have rather small websites, the son of some car dealer, they could implement an application, but they definitely don't implement an AEM application. So therefore, the last pattern, and luckily I have enough time to tell you more about that, is the app as part of the content page to the backend integration. And that's the stuff where I also have implemented something, and I can share with you. Backend integration means we want to have the advantages that we have in the IFrame, that at development time, both things are completely separated. We have AEM doing the front end, the content page, and we have the application, the single page application, which has a single page HTML, has static resources like JavaScript, CSS, images, fonts, whatever, and some dynamic endpoints like dynamic HTML or REST APIs. And for runtime, we want to get somehow, with some kind of magic, we want to get the static parts of the application into the content page so that it can be delivered by AEM. And we have all the advantages of AEM. So we have the delivery pipeline. So we have a cluster of publishers. We have dispatchers in front of that. So the application doesn't have to care for that. And sometimes applications have a very little backend. Yeah? If you think the calculator where you send me an offer, that probably doesn't happen a lot. So that's a very tiny application from the backend wise. And from the front end, so to deliver all the pages, I don't know how much traffic you have, but this is completely given to AEM, which is normally reasonable sized to handle the traffic. And let's take a look what kind of potential approaches we have. First one is, of course, copy and paste. There's always one person on the project that wants to prove his usefulness and say, yeah, I can do this, and I copy this to etc client libs, I copy this to etc design, creating an AEM component, and I'm done in 4 hours. Yeah, don't worry. And probably he is done in 4 hours. So everybody's happy until you pointing on it and say, that's just for Germany, and in German, we had 35 other countries and languages. Okay, takes 2 days. But then the first bug fix come and so on and so on. It's simply, it doesn't scale. Yeah? So you always start from the beginning. Next approach is a Maven build. Actually, we really would love that, but everybody else, they hate that, especially if the application is very front-end driven. These web agencies, they hate Java, they have no clue about Maven. So if the Maven build fails, they couldn't fix anything, yeah, it simply doesn't work. There's no independence for the application. Another approach is reverse proxy. So you have, when the AEM is rendering the page, okay, also we need to integrate the application. We make a HTTP request to the application, grabbing the HTML snippet, and integrate it on our page. And performance is not an issue because after the page is rendered, it's in the dispatcher cache. From now on, it's delivered by the dispatcher cache. Everything is fine. Still a bad idea because Simple will never, ever make a call to an external system as part of your page rendering. So if you have to do so for whatever reasons, you have to make precautions that not your entire AEM is getting blocked or that is even taken down then. So for this, it's not worth doing it. And also, you're getting out of sync issues maybe. So your page, your content page is evicted from the dispatcher cache. It's getting reloaded, but your JavaScript or CSS is maybe 2 days old. So maybe strange things can happen. So, and you definitely don't want to investigate on that. Final one is a backend crawler. And that's actually a working stuff. And so the application developers I work with, they really understand and like this approach. And I'm going into the details. That meaning you have a periodic job. We usually do it every hour. So every hour, the application is asked again, give me all the static stuff. And so if you have a deployment, you can trigger this also manually, or if anything failed, you can trigger this manually as well. But you start with loading the HTML. And actually, that consists of some steps. First step is you query all the instances. Yeah, as we said, the application is part of a content page. Probably it's on multiple content pages. So the application is on a German page, on an English page, Polish page, whatever. So you have 35 instances of the application. Maybe this calculator is used for a life-saving plan or for an insurance or something. So that's all you have to. You have to query the instances first and then evaluate the context so that you can provide to the application, give me the HTML snippet for German. Give me the HTML snippet for a life insurance. And then you finally load the HTML page. You can verify the HTML. So that's the first time you can do something. And what was useful is checking for some regex expression. So I don't want to see in the HTML a SQL database exception. That's some kind of string that can definitely generate a warning. So here you can react. So the application has some issues for whatever reasons. You can check that. Or you can check that the size is in a certain range, so it's not getting totally bigger because of exceptions traces or whatever error messages, or it's not getting smaller. So if it's normally a 5 kilobyte HTML snippet and you just get 50 bytes, it's an indication that something was wrong. You can do something. And then you extract the HTML snippet. And for extracting the HTML snippet, I use JSoup. That's actually a Java backend HTML parser, which says, which wants to provide you a DOM as you have in the browser and gives you all the functionality that you can know from jQuery. So that's their mission statement. So you have in the backend a DOM, so they're parsing any HTML as browsers do, so it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So if the browser can read it, JSoup wants to be able to read it, so most of the time it works. And you have a DOM in your backend application, and you can do whatever you can do with jQuery. And what you can also do then is extract static resources that are used by this application. So giving you an example, you're having this application as example. So this is a completely test page, and what I usually do with my internal application is you specify the div which you want to extract by adding some HTML attribute, which I call here data web app export. Sorry, so this is getting rid of that. So, and this is just a single select statement with JSoup. So just as with jQuery, you're getting this and you say, give me outer HTML, and you have the HTML snippet. That's fine. And then you can integrate this on your page. Also with the static resources, you understand which style sheets you want to export, or this example with a calculator UI.js that you want to have. And the jQuery, you don't want to have because you already have it on the page. So this is not exported. So, and you can have also all the integration. So maybe you providing some stuff for the application developers, like font files they can reuse, maybe some CSS or something like that. and then and that's the interface for the application developer. So having a application is reachable by a URL, so you have to provide the context in the URL, and they should specify somehow where it's the HTML snippet which you want to extract, which static resources you want to extract to be part of the page delivered by AEM. And, this is only if it's an internal application. If there's an external application, you can use any query selector. So it's not necessarily that you specify the data web app export. Whenever you can specify a jQuery selector, you can grab the HTML. OK, second step is loading a static resource. So some static resources we already have seen, but that's not all. So there's a technology we use, it's load the cache manifest. So in the cache manifest, it's a HTML, a web standard, providing for browsers to caching single-page applications. So it's just a list of all static resources that the browser should cache. We can use it as well. So this list is all the static resources that AEM should incorporate. And then we load the static resources. Of course, we have to extract references. So take as a sample CSS files. They might have references to background images or so, that there are even more static resources. But we collect them, store them somewhere in the repository. So var, app integration, and then app ID, and then we store all the data. And then we can verify the stuff. So as example, maybe we have rules that the CSS should not override our H1 or some body statement or something, changing the complete look and feel of the website. So we can check that all here. All these rules can be enforced here, or can send out a warning or whatever. And and that's it. So, and this is an example for a cache manifest, pretty simple file. And these are actually the two things that an application has to provide. This is our interface to the application developer. They have to deliver an HTML page where we can grab from the part of the application that should be integrated in our content page. And they have to specify the cache manifest with all the files that we should integrate it in our web page. And even the online part, so as we need something, something for some parts for, let's say, the load balancer to say which request should go to the application. So this can be specified as here, but usually this is done manually by a change request, so setting operating team. Please do a routing for REST API send offer. Also typically, I integrated with Ext, application ID, REST API, send offer should be routed to this application. Okay, and finally, we have some post-processing. And what we do is having an A/B switch. You don't need that, so if it usually doesn't fail, it's okay to not to use that one. But you definitely have to do a dispatcher cache. You have to clear the dispatcher cache. What it makes special for AEM, so it would not work in Sling. You calculate the overall status, sending out some emails, writing some audit logs or whatever, and you schedule the next run. So this is the general principle behind. And you want to see the source code. I try to extract that as much as I can. I'm not finished yet, but it's under this GitHub repository. Some parts are already working. I try to do more. I will be available in November, December, so I reserved some time that I can finish on that. But if you're interested to work, so continue with that, maybe you can use that. So I'm happy if you contact me, that we can work together on this. Maybe we can do it on your project together to develop this stuff further, so that maybe next year we could present a really working demo, well-documented application. So at the moment, it's not even fully extracted the stuff I have in these various projects before. I even not have fully extracted. So, but this is the general process to do. And of course, the final evaluation, as we said, taking the advantages of the IFrame for the development, having independent development, and having the advantages of the backend Ajax API for integration into the content page. Finally, so I'm good in time. Finally, some further integration patterns where I didn't have the time to do is external content. Actually happens quite a lot. So as example, you have a car manufacturer, and they're selling financing. So the financing is actually provided by a bank. And the terms and conditions or some marketing websites, they provided by the bank itself. So if the interest rate's going up or down, or the terms and conditions change, you can have either, so that they call the car manufacturer and say, yeah, please update your website because the interest rate changed, or you can integrate external content. So you grab content frequently from their website, integrate it into your website, and so you can share the responsibility. Or for banking, the online banking case, they work together with a lot of insurances. So actually, if you take a look for these online banking websites, you find pages which stating in the footer, this content is delivered by Fire Society, so some insurance, by different insurance companies. So in the online banking application that I showed you, there are several pages provided by external companies. And this content is integrated by the process as with the application integration. The only difference is that you don't have this REST APIs. And what is also good, you can have more checks. So your authors can have checks for getting in an email as soon as certain keywords are missing on this page. Yeah? So if you have terms and conditions for life insurance, and you're getting new content, so this has changed, and it doesn't contain the word life insurance, the bells can ring, and so you can send your author, please check that. So multi-page applications is somehow tricky. If you have just a few of them, like a form journey, then you can do it probably manually, or you do it manually. Otherwise, you have to create a wizard to create all these pages. But it definitely makes sense to have every page you deliver from your AEM also as a page in your content. So you have to keep it in sync. So I just want to go through. Post request is a little bit different, and structured content import is also a different story. Due to time, I don't want to invest on that. I actually, for you, there's a second part of this talk, how AEM can provide integration points for the application. This is all in the appendix, but due to time, thank you very much, and I'm ready for questions.